The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is a debut African-inspired fantasy novel about revenge, and it is thrilling. I was absolutely engaged all the way through, and this is going to be a non-spoiler review. I really want to talk about spoilers because I just finished reading it this morning, and I cannot wait to gush. But I'm going to save the gushing and the spoilers for the very end. So, one of the things I really liked about this was the emotional intensity of this work. This work had a lot to do with a man's quest for revenge for the people that betrayed him, for the nobles, and also against the whole of society, because there's a very rigid caste structure to this society, to the society of the chosen. The whole book is written about oppression and about casual cruelty of the nobility against the lesser, as they call them. And this is such a good example of show, don't tell. You know, we don't sit down for a history lecture about how, like, oh, the lessers are being oppressed by the nobility. Like, we see it time and time again. It is hammered into us by what the main character goes through and what the people that the main character loves go through. Just the disregard for their life, for the value of a lesser's life, is just pounded home again and again through the course of this book. And it reminds me of Brandon Sanderson's Light Eyes and Dark Eyes, except I think this rivals it, and it might even be better. Like, this is really good, and it really lights a fire. The book is called A Rage of Dragons, and wow, there's a lot of rage in this book. Like, the whole book is a revenge fantasy. The emotional drive pull through of this novel, it doesn't get confused. Like, you don't meander about, like, oh, this is my quest, let me go do side things. Like, no, it is a very whoosh, let's go. And it is compelling up until the very last page, such that I need to go out and I need to get the sequel. And I'm really upset because the sequel isn't out yet, because wow. I like talking sometimes about how when you read the first book in a series, like when I talk about this a bit in my Bear and the Nightingale review, but when you read the first book in a series, you can feel varying levels of, like, compelling, of like, do I need to read the next book, or is it kind of like a resolved experience? The Bear and the Nightingale was kind of resolved, but this, wow, I need to keep reading. It was really good. The magic system here was low, but very involved. Like, not everybody has magic. Magic is limited to the gifted, and this is not a spoiler because we established the rules of magic immediately in the prologue. In the prologue, there's an opening battle, and the battle is set, you know, far in the past, but it's kind of the foundation for what you learn about later. So I know some people don't read prologues, but for this, read the prologue. It's very important to the book, and it's very compelling. Like, page 1, bam, war and death. We see the different types of magic. We see enervation, we see enraging with the Ingonyama, and it's all very cool. I was a little bit worried at first that the different types of magic would be kind of just like hodgepodge. It's like, oh, we have a person who can enrage, and we have a person who can send messages. You know, I was like, oh, these are related. But no, as the book goes on, you realize, like, yes, everything's related. This is purposeful. It's not just a chaotic, ooh, superpower. It's like, no, it's very purposeful, and it's very cool. And the stuff that we do with the magic system later on that the main character gets to go through, it's very, very compelling. So really nicely done there. Something I really like about this book also is the moral complexity of the characters and the country that we're in. You know, we're with the chosen, the Omehi people, and you realize from the very beginning of the book that this is not they're not good people. Like, it's like the book opens with them landing on a country's soil and saying, we're here, we're invading, these people are heathens. Like, wow, really strong opening. And these are the people that, like, we're following for the entire book. And just as the book goes on, without spoiling anything, like, there is no, like, oh, we're the good guys, like, you're the bad guys. You're like, oh, are we the bad guys? Like, and I like that. I like that it's not just this is a war book. It's about a man who becomes a soldier and who learns to fight for, like, his country and for his revenge. But it's complicated because you're like, this country is not a good country. And between that and all the oppression of the caste system, it's like, whoa. But not just that, but the main character as well. Like, he is a very compelling protagonist, and watching him grow, like, I wouldn't call this book YA because it's very dark, it's very gruesome, it's lots of war and lots of death. I wouldn't call it YA, but it's YA in the sense of it's coming of age-ish. Like, we see him go from where he starts as, like, this weak, young child, and then growing up into what he becomes, like, through the course of the book, and how he struggles and how he hurts and how he fights and he earns what he gets. Like sometimes you see in shows, it's like, oh, you have a power boost because you had a little montage or whatever, you trained off screen. Like, no. He earns his power. And for that reason, I think people who like YA might like this book because I think that appeals to them. Like seeing him go from where he was to where he is, it's very satisfying and very gratifying to see him begin to overcome obstacles. But the main character himself is morally complex, just like the nation. Not everything he does is good. He's not always a good person. Like I said, this is a revenge book. This novel is a book about hatred and caste oppression and cruelty and war. It's very compelling. Very good book. An interesting thing about this book are the fight scenes. Normally, I do not like fight scenes. I certainly don't like writing them. I try very hard not to write fight scenes. But usually, even when I read fight scenes, it's kind of disappointing because a lot of times in fight scenes, especially in movies, like people are exchanging blows, but they don't really matter. Like you get thrown into a wall or your head gets slammed into something. It's like, oh, I see stars for a moment, and then you're fine. Or it's like your arm breaks and a few minutes later, like, yo, off-screen healing, you're fine. A lot of times fights don't really matter that much, it feels. And a lot of the blows that are traded, they don't add up to anything. It's just not really a consequence. You skim over it. And a lot of times they end up churning something that's raw and primal and very chaotic. It's almost like over-choreographed dance. And that takes a lot of it away from me. Fights are not like that. Fights are not like Jackie Chan Kung Fu black belt exposition fights. Like they're very quick, dirty, rough, chaotic, what is going on, muscle memory kind of thing, very fast. So a lot of times I feel like books struggle to do good fight scenes. And this book is a lot of fight scenes. It's about a soldier. It's very full of fighting, but it's done really, really well. You can follow the action very clearly, which is automatically puts it above a lot of other books that try to do this. Not only can you follow the action, it's compelling. So it pulls you through, and then things that happen matter. People get injured in fights, and they get injured easily. Like weapons are dangerous. They hurt, and they cause damage, and the damage isn't shied away from. Like bones are broken, blood flows, concussions, this stuff happens. And I do feel that sometimes the long-term consequences of like, oh, his arm broke, back to training, Like, it's like, oh, I mean, I guess enough time has passed, but it's kind of unclear because this is supposed to be all happening in the span of a year. Like, what's going on? So I feel like the long-term consequences of injuries sometimes downplayed a little bit, but the short-term consequences of them, like, definitely, like, well done. And not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. The trauma of fighting, the trauma of what the main character puts himself through, like, it builds up, and you can see the toll that it takes on him as a person, and I really like that. I like that the author doesn't flinch away from the reality of some of these things. People are traumatized, and there's a direct PTSD magic kind of thing going on that I really appreciate and I really enjoy seeing represented in the book. So the fight scenes, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty dang good. And I definitely applaud the author for doing such a good job of making so many fight scenes. Fights are integral to the work and making them have consequence. I really like that, and it was really good. So well done, Chris Evans. Like, wow. Speaking of not pulling your punches, and I can't say more until I get to the spoiler bit, but the losses in this book hurt. Like when somebody, because again, this is a book about war and revenge, when somebody that you care about dies, it's hard to read and you can feel it. It's intense. I'm going to go ahead and talk about spoilers now, and then I'll come back and I'll finish with a non-spoiler bit. So if you want to skip ahead to the non-spoiler, here is the timestamp. It's going to be up here somewhere. And spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, the underworld. Isihogo was so cool. Not just because it tied all of the magic together in a way that related it to the mythology, but also because of how Tao uses it. Like, wow. His continually sending himself down into the underworld over and over and over again. His insistence that I will fight, I will get stronger. I know I can't do enough to kill these people with just the time that I have, so I'm going to go in Isihogo where time dilates and is longer, and I'm going to keep sending myself there over and over again, even though every time I go, I'm going to get brutally murdered by demons again and again. And that is so cool and so sad, and I love that it has consequences for him, that he starts seeing demons everywhere and his psyche is clearly crumbling. But the effect it has on his skills and on his abilities, like seeing him just start to blaze through when everyone he met was giving him trouble, and now he's just like whooping everyone. It's so cool. I loved the magic system. I really liked how his Blade brothers, like, I didn't mention this too much in my non-spoiler part because they didn't really resonate too much with me, but I did like them as characters. I thought they added a lot. I thought they bounced off him pretty well. When his love interest died, like, oh, I feel that because she was so close to safety. Like, she was saved once and then she could have been saved, but then she sacrificed herself. And I was like, no, this is going to rip Tao apart. And she was such a cool character. Like, oh, and then the end, talk about a clear pull through to the next sequel. Like when the queen like lays out, this is where we're going. And Counselor Odili has set up like his own little kingdom over here, has set up like a false queen. Like, you're going to go over there and you're going to go fight him. But in doing so, he's also pursuing his revenge. Like, it was such a good ending. And I was like, oh my gosh, because of this, I kind of know where we're going. There's a hint of a romance between him and the queen. Like, let's go. I want to know. Chris Evans, please set up the next book. Did I say Chris Evans? Evan Winter. I'm sorry. The bit at the end with the dragon scale blades having the hilt of his father and his grandfather's swords, like, that got me. That really got me, because at the beginning when his father was about to die, I couldn't keep reading. I had to close the book. I had to walk around for a little bit, and then I had to open it back up and go, whew, okay, here we go. He's gonna die. Let's do this. It was a lot. The Hideni, you really start to agree with the Hideni about like halfway through. Like, even before, like in the prologue, you're like, wow, the Omehi people are not the good guys. And then around halfway through, you start to be like, the Hideni are right. And by the time you reach the ending and you're like, wow, the Omehi like completely betrayed their offer of peace. Like, they burned down 100,000 people when the Hideni had agreed for peace. Well, not all the Hideni, but at least that one tribe of them. They betrayed them. And when the warlord is yelling at Queen Sayori and is just like, queen of demons, like, we're gonna wipe your people off the face of Zeta. Like, I was just like, I can see where, like, I mean, yeah, they betrayed you, but like, this is not a good country. Like, I'm hoping that Queen Sayori can make a better people out of them, because between the caste system's oppression and everything else, it's bad. I really liked the take on dragons. At first I thought it would just be like a bland, oh, we summon the dragons to our aid, but no, they have a youngling captured and they're torturing it kind of by keeping it forever trapped in Isihogo, and they're luring the parents in and saying, oh, he's not here. And to know that the dragons get their revenge by, like, they hold on to the person's mind until they're ripped apart by demons. Like, it's such a good cost. I love magic that comes with cost, and the cost of being like, every time you summon a dragon, because of the way we're summoning them, someone dies. It's a really good way to do it, and I really like it. So that was it for the spoiler portion. Back to non-spoilers. This was such a compelling read. I could not put this down. It was so good. The narrator added a really good depth and layering to it, because there is a lot of words in here that I wasn't sure how to pronounce otherwise. And also, there's a lot of terms and titles thrown around that was honestly a little bit confusing at first. It kind of still was halfway through, but if you keep pushing through the confusion and you keep going, everything becomes clear. Even if you miss a few things here and there, like, it was really good. And I guess at the end of the day, the best thing I can say about this is that I really want to read the next book. I cannot wait. This was incredible. I might go back and read it again just because it was such a good ride. So who would enjoy this book? I think if you like fantasy, if you like war stories, if you like revenge, if you like watching a protagonist get steadily stronger and stronger through the course of a book, starting out low and then going other places. If you like a book, that twists and churns in ways that you didn't expect. Like, it didn't follow the natural progression of where I thought we were going to go. It laid out a path for us, and then it was like, we're not going that way. So if that sounds intriguing to you, I would recommend giving this book a try. This book was really good. I cannot wait for the next sequel. I think all the reviews that I'd read of it that were like, yo, this is like one of the next big things. Like this is one of the strongest debut novels like that I've seen in a long time. This was really good. I would highly recommend giving this a try, as long as you aren't turned off by excessive fighting and bloodshed. Like, don't read this with children. But as long as it doesn't turn you off, highly recommend this African fantasy of revenge and hate. So down in the comments, why don't you let me know what revenge themed book you really enjoy and you would recommend. I don't want to say I'm on a revenge streak right now, but this book's fire and passion is just such a push through. It kind of reminds me of Confessions a little bit by Kinae Minato. So if you can think of another book that has like the goal for revenge, like that kind of passionate fire underpinning it, let me know down in the comments below. And I hope you have a great day, because every day is a gift, and I hope you find something in your day that helps you smile. Bye for now.